Okay, we're going to talk about the expenses settings under account and settings here, and then expenses. There are just a couple of settings, so just going to do one video for this. So we have show items table on expenses or purchase forms. We can enable this if we want items to show. If they do not show, then what we can choose on expense or purchase forms is we can choose which GL account they're pointing towards. So why would you enable items? The purpose of enabling items on purchase forms and on sales forms, but is to give us an extra level of complexity when it comes to reporting. So if we have, let's just say cost of goods sold, and those cost of goods sold, we have materials, and we're just throwing everything into the materials cost of goods sold account. Okay. That could be enough for us to make decisions in our business. However, if we break it out, even if we're not doing inventory tracking, and we break out the materials to say something along the lines of big equipment or maybe parts that we sell more frequently, so we just want to track how many of these parts, individual parts, are selling. So let's say we're an HVAC company as an example. And, we might not want to track our air filters because we just go through air filters like nobody's business. But water heaters we might want to track. So maybe I want to put water heater, even if it's not an inventory part, but I want to put it in here so I can see the cost of water heaters and how the cost is varied over a period of time. I don't want to stick water heaters on my profit and loss statement under materials as a chart of accounts account because that's too much detail for a profit and loss. But if I want to be able to run a subledger report to say materials and then what kinds of materials, then you can set this up as items that will show up. The other time when we'll see something like this is maybe in the expenses section we have something like computer and equipment, right? It's not a major expense for us. Or dues and subscriptions. That's another one that we see quite frequently. It's not a major expense for us, but we don't want to separate out every single dues and subscriptions or every single computer and office supplies that we have on our P&L. So maybe we will create items instead and say, this is a computer item, this is a software item, this is a hardware item, right? This is a office decoration item, whatever it is, but at least we can have some subledger categories to be able to give us more details if we need it. Okay, so I always recommend setting up items if we can. Then track expenses and items by customer. So what this does is it enables the field when you go in and track expenses or items for a customer. So let me go ahead and take a look in here. I go to a new bill as an example. Now I don't have the items turned on, right? So I can just see GL account codes. Okay. But I can also assign this to a particular job. So whatever this line is on this particular bill, I can assign it to a job. So that's when that preference opens up. Now, why would you want to do that? So you can run a profit and loss by job, right? Also, if we're going to be doing any kind of time and materials billing, we would possibly add the customer to the line here. Okay. Again, as much information as you put in the system, the better you're going to be able to pull data and get reports out of the system. So if you can allocate costs to a customer project, right, that is going to allow you to get better billing. Now, other ways that I've seen customer project, not just as external, right, our actual revenue producing customers or projects. I've also seen it for internal purposes. So maybe we're building a new building, or maybe we are attempting to start up a new division and we want to track expenses against this new internal project we're taking on. Also another way I've seen that used. So we can have that there. Just while we're on the screen, let me go back. This billable box here as well. So this is deciding whether or not we are going to bill the customer for our services or for our expenses. So doing the time and materials type of billing. So that box is enabled by having this turned on. Okay, so you see that box because this preference is turned on here under bills and expenses. Now we do have some preferences around this. We can do a markup with a default rate, right? So we have a fixed 20% markup on all of our items we purchase for customers when we go to create the invoice. We can also choose to track billable expenses and items as income in a single account or broken out into multiple accounts. Now, most often, my customers break it out into multiple accounts because they want to see those details. And then, of course, are we going to charge sales tax on the markup? Then we would be able to mark that here. Okay. Default bill payment terms. So this is just going to be the default with all of our vendors. So we're going to go ahead and mark that here. Of course, we can say default is net 30. We say net 60 because we can dream, but on each individual vendor, then we can set up what our terms are for them. All right. Now down below here, we say, are we going to use purchase orders? Yes or no. So why would you use purchase orders? If you have multiple people in your business, if you ever feel like taking a vacation, if you choose not to try to keep everything in your brain, purchase orders are great. Okay, so let's say that you are in the construction industry and you ask a subcontractor to come in and do some work for you. Throw a purchase order in there. It's just a reminder. What did we talk about? What did we say? It is technically a contract, right? If you send it out to them, I'm contracting with you to do 10 hours of work at $25 an hour for a total of $250. Okay, but putting it in the system keeps everybody honest, right? So they said $35, we said $25, and we can't remember what we actually said, and we don't have it in writing. Well, we can go back to that purchase order. So as much as possible, purchase orders in the system, they're reminders. What did we buy? What do we say we're going to buy? What price did we say we're going to pay? It's a great way to track everything. Okay. Also, you can see at the inventory level what is on a purchase order already. So that is something to take into account too. Then we have messages down below here. So we go into this a little bit on the sales settings, reminders, but we can use a standard greeting, full name, last name, first, last, etc. Generally, customers use company name, and we use the greeting as blank. Then we have email subject line. What would we like to go into the email subject line? This is for purchase orders, by the way. And then we have email messaging. So what would go into the email message? And then who are we going to copy? Now, the reason that this is for purchase orders is because purchase orders are a external facing document, right? Something that we send out to our vendors. Bills, as an example, a vendor sends to us. So we don't really have to send them an acknowledgement of a bill. But this is a purchase order, is us creating the contract with them, which is why we have a message template to be set up. So those are preferences around expenses.